Asian Outlook on Web TV. Your host is Anusha from Global Om Media. The word Global Om combines global and the Sanskrit word Om, emphasizing that despite social, cultural, economic, and political diversities, we are all living in one world. Global Om Media is an international venture that's operating from Canada and Europe and has been publishing South Asian Outlook electronic monthly since July 2001. Global Om Media also produces South Asian Outlook on Web TV in partnership with TorontoTV. In this bi-weekly show of South Asian Outlook on Web TV, our topic is the Hindu religion being exploited in mainstream media. And today with me to just have a friendly discussion and debate are Abintha, Shivani, and Leena.
Thank you very much, Anusha. Why is it that Hinduism is always exploited in the mainstream of media, and Hindus all over the world are expected to keep quiet about such issues and to accept the defamation of the religion and religious symbols? Every religion is sacred as the other, so why degrade one religion over another?
Well, the thing about symbols is that symbols are very universal. They mean something else to someone, and they mean something else to someone else entirely, The thing about symbols is that what they mean in a small civilization doesn't always apply globally. Like Abintha was saying something about, what were you saying the other day?
Well, I'm wearing an Om t-shirt, so to me a symbol is, it has something to do with a religion, but yet at the same time it's also a fashion statement that people are making these days.
Yeah, and also, suppose we have a swastika on a t-shirt, right? We, as a Hindu community, will see it as a symbol of prosperity and a symbol of Ganeshji. Mm-hmm. Whereas somebody else who comes up from Germany, they're like, oh, you cater to the Nazi, right. Right. So it's all about perception, and if we choose to perceive it as an exploitation, then it is an exploitation. It depends on the intention of what the person is trying to say, mm-hmm. as opposed to what it actually comes out as.
True. I agree.
Right.
Very true.
Especially nowadays, like brand symbols and fashion, it's thrown out in the media. That's what it's all about. Fashion, you see different types of fashion, different types of culture portrayed, and specifically, looking at Om t-shirts, looking at different Hindu goddess and goddesses in fashion is a common thing today, and how we perceive it to be depends on an individual. Some people take it as being okay, while others take it as being something that's, something that's not appropriate for them.
And as far as the media goes, everything that comes out in the media is totally construed in different ways as far as the media is concerned. Seeing from the lens of the media, everything is different,
Yeah.
It's not just religion, it's not just, seeing something as mysticism or seeing something as, karmic. It's something that's seen from the media itself, completely different from what we see it, and then how we perceive it becomes what the media perceives it. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Oh, it did.
In my head it did.
Well, I think it's, along what you're saying, Shivani, it's also exaggerated many times because it's something that's very simple that we've been living with and we've been believing for a while, then turns out to be front page news, that in this community this happened, and that's, it was offensive to this group of people versus in other communities something's happening there too. And I think religion is such a topic that there's lots of room to take offense to anything that doesn't go wrong or anything that goes against or beyond what we've been grown up believing in. And when you are living in a community with diverse racial groups everywhere, everyone's going to have their own input, everyone's going to have their own perspective on certain things. It's the old school versus the way it is today, and sometimes youth don't perceive things the way they do, the way their parents did. Something as simple like a symbol, like Abintha's wearing an Om shirt today, and for, coming from us, it's a fashion perspective. We're paying respect to the religion still, the symbol itself, but to someone else who, let's say, an elderly priest in the community who's been serving, in the Hindu religion for a while, may not feel it that way. It may feel, oh, that's not right to be wearing that, and let's say holding a drink in your hand, or going
But
to a party.
let me say something, add something to that. I think as human beings,
Right.
we tend to be very ethnocentric in our approach to symbols, and particularly this particular topic. And we judge culture, not forgetting that everybody does not feel the same way.
True.
So it's it's based again on your values and your upbringing. And I don't know if you guys have ever been to this club called Karma.
I've heard about it.
You've heard about it?
And shut
So,
down,
I mean, if you ever go to that club, inside you have a whole bunch of religious symbols, and again, to Hindus, to us, it probably seems like a holy thing. But if you look at it from their point of view, it's part of theology as well. It's
Right.
part of fashion as well. So what they're trying to do is the word karma is related to, in a way, to Hinduism and yoga, but they're trying to make that feel in that atmosphere. So if you're looking at it that way, it attracts people, and it's it's a total different philosophy. So again, it really varies, and it really depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. Now, for example, a cow is very sacred to us as well. And does that mean that, okay, so Hindus don't eat beef and we worship cow. Does that mean that you should not advertise a cow for milk products? It's the same way. So, I mean, there's different perspectives and different views of people, and I think we as individuals should respect that.
Definitely.
And I just to add to that, I also understand it's a point of just to add on to both yours and Anusha's. It's also to add on what is taking it too far.
Right.
Like I know that back in university, I was part of the Hindu Student Association, and we had like henna tattoos going on. And there was a Hindu guy who came up, and he was very young, and he came up and he asked one of the girls, "Do you eat meat?" And she said, "Yes, I do." He's like, "Why do you have an Om symbol then?" So I think it depends, or if you wear an Om ring or an Om necklace and you drink and you eat or you smoke or you go the whole 9 yards. It depends on what you're putting it. What's the extent you're taking it to? How much is too far? To me personally, that's taking a little bit too far. Whereas someone else may say that's just a fashion statement, or you know what I mean? So it depends on how extent you're going to. Like I agree with religious symbols, like you're wearing an Om shirt, and someone may come up to you and say, "Abinta, why are you wearing an Om shirt? It's our sacred symbol," or So it all, like you guys all said, it depends on your perception of things.
Then again, there's a
definitely.
lot of people wearing it. I mean, we have a lot of vendors out there. We even
I
have
agree.
our own
Yeah,
Desi Wear. I don't know if you've heard of
yeah.
Desi Wear. They have, T-shirts with Om on them. So it really depends on the individual again and how you portray it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're
How
not
far.
disrespecting your culture, I don't think there's anything
There's
wrong
anything
with
wrong
that.
with
Also,
that.
not to forget that we do live in a modern world, and it's hard to not be, you can't really get away from certain things. Like, if you have a henna, if it wasn't a henna tattoo and it was a tattoo, I mean, you would never smoke again, or you would never drink again,
It all depends.
And going back to 50 years ago, my grandmother has an Om on her hand. And I'm not saying, I mean, she wasn't vegetarian before, so I'm not saying she drinks or anything, but, she did eat meat. She did practice all those things, but yet she had the Om symbol on her hand, like a lot of people. So it really depends.
That's what I'm saying. It depends on how much you want to take it to the extravagant, right?
Right.
How much you want to extend it and how much you want to pull it to the extent where it's just like people are arguing over this and there's just too much misconceptions.
It all becomes an issue.
It all becomes, yeah, exactly. And just like Shivani said with the media, what the media comes out with is what we perceive, but then it's also sometimes the media where they tend to stretch things and try to make things more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Larger than life.
Exactly, more larger than life, and when it's really not. Right? It could be like a hush-hush little thing, and as soon as the media comes up, bang, it's exploited. And it's totally miscommunicated to the rest of the community, whether it be South Asian or whether it be, the rest of the
That's how you
population.
have all these fights that are going on and all these riots that happen.
Yeah.
It's all because of the exploitation.
Yeah, exactly.
And to bring one more point up, is that we as a human, it's a human nature that we tend to create in-groups and out-groups.
Mhm.
So in our own group, we would be, it's okay that politicians, our own media, our own, sometimes even religious people exploit us by using religious symbols and by using theology against us, even though it's pure substance on its own.
Right.
But, people do that. But it's okay for our own people to do it. But if somebody else from the Western society does it to us, then it's a big deal. Then it becomes an issue. Whereas we exploit our own symbols to quite an extent.
Without realizing it.
Without realizing it, pretty much.
That's true, yeah, but I would somewhat disagree, because I would say that there are people still within the Hindu society, like within the South Asian, you know what I mean, that still would take it to offense if they are being, if someone else is exploiting their own religion. They're taken to offense. They may say jokes or something, but there may be someone who's sitting next to them and may say, no, I totally took offense to what you just said. So I think that everyone does respect their own religion, and they should respect other religions as well.
But they definitely don't want, let's say, the North American society kind of making any inappropriate comments or negative connotations to anything that we hold sacred, that we actually want to,
True.
show respect to. And I think that's where the difference comes in, that how much is too much, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. I guess how much is too much, but then at the same time, it's also maybe because we take it more to offense because they may be saying it in making a point across that may be a misconception.
Right.
Like I've gotten, and we'll come back to this, I know we're going to talk about gods, but I've always asked the question, how come you guys pray to so many gods, right?
Idol worship.
And idol worship and stuff like that. So it's I guess it's the way that they come out with the words and stuff, and they don't realize that what they're trying to do is that they're making misconceptions in our heads already.
True.
Without knowing the truth. Whereas I would say some, not all, but some of the South Asian population knows about the religion.
Right.
So they know the context into what to carry it to.
Right.
There are people, not to mention, that will take it to the extreme.
For sure. And I think for these people it's important that the South Asian youth, at least, our parents do know and have instilled religion and
Right.
the importance of all that to us. But when the North American society raises questions to it or hears something that's misconstrued, they need us to clear it up for them. In fact, not for us to say, yeah, you're right, I don't know why we pray to so many gods, or, I don't know what the O means, or
Right,
things like that. And that's where we step in, where we should be clearing up those misconceptions. And I don't know if a lot of us do that sometimes, or we just sit down thinking, oh, they're going to think, okay, we're weird, or we're odd, or whatever the case may be. And that's really just leading to more miscommunication.
Exactly. And just to add on something that Shivani said earlier about the swastika, I mean, that's a misconception that the non-South Asian population has, because I never knew this until someone like an elder person came to me and sat down and explained that our sign of the Ganeshji that we have is actually switched around, so it's not a swastika sign. It's actually turned. So it doesn't look, so if anyone comes up to you and says you're wearing a swastika shirt, they should know that the symbols are opposite.
It's not the same way that a swastika is.
Just
Yeah,
something
it's
to
not
add to that, something that I remember from the past. My cousin had purchased a new car, and then she went to the temple. You know how we go to the temple and just get the priest to worship and so forth. And the priest did a puja, and then he put a swastika on the hood of the car. And she'd gone to work, and her boss came up to her and said, hey, what's that on your car? Why do you have a swastika on your car? That's evil. Whereas she tried to explain to him, hey, it's not evil. It's something that we look at as being prosperous.
Right.
So, I mean, again, coming back to the misconception and the views of people. So it's important that we explain to individuals what it means and how relevant it is within our culture itself.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, speaking of media and taking things too far, last year a South Asian organization organized and sponsored an event called the Bollywood Cowboys. Well known, it was a highly publicized event, and it actually from this stemmed a lot of controversy. To promote this event, and during the event there were a lot of depictions and portrayals used that were said to be offensive by many Hindus to the Hindu religion, to the beliefs. And in fact, these depictions and the ideology used behind this was highly inappropriate for some. It did involve, to some extent, even depicting our Hindu gods in a very negative and inappropriate manner. So we're going to take a short break now, but we will come back and discuss this a little bit more with you. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Thanks. TV. Before our break, we were talking about the Hindu religion being exploited in some ways in the media, and I was talking about the event called Bollywood Cowboys last year, where they had a few depictions and portrayals, especially targeted towards Hindu gods, and they were quite inappropriate and offensive to many Hindus. And a few of the examples of that, for the actual posters, billboards, and ads that they had to promote the event, marketing strategy-wise, there were fair-skinned models that were shown with henna and Indian textiles on. However, there was also models shown that were portrayed as our goddess Kali Ma, which is one of our goddesses, with multiple arms and basically holding the four arms up, and they were these models that were shown like that. There was also a launch party that was held for this event in April 2005. April 2005 last year, and they had the go-go dancers who were portrayed as goddesses, as well as our Lord Krishna, all dressed in blue, which is again symbolic of a part of our Hindu religion, and they were serving alcoholic beverages. Another example that was in quite bad taste, according to myself, there was a cover program that was handed out, the intro that you have for the programs ahead of time, and on that they had another one of our goddesses, Lakshmi Ma, and she was sitting in a cross-legged lotus position, which is actually her symbolic position. However, she was the model portraying her was completely nude, except there were sparkles on certain areas on her body, strategically placed conveniently. But the connotation to that is quite clear, and again, in some ways, very obscene and not taken well by very many Hindus at all. These are a few of those examples that came out of Bollywood Cowboys that stemmed some of this controversy.
Another issue, not an issue, but something else that came out from it was that a guest had spotted a server who was wearing Air Canada who was an event sponsor. He saw a logo of Air Canada putting bindis on people's foreheads, and this individual the server was smoking. So when the guest went up to the server and said, "Why are you smoking?" and he said, "Well, Lord Shiva smokes, so why can't I?" And so that was a misconception, like we were talking before the break, that Shivji never smoked. They confuse it between bhang, which is something totally different. So that's another misconception, and that I just found to be quite strange and quite odd. The Hindus all across the community, all across the GTA, were actually very outraged by hearing what had happened. There were people that they were actually handing out T-shirts of our goddesses and gods, and they were thrown on the floor, and people were trampling on that. And that's when we go to our temple, we put God to be the supreme all being, to be the Almighty, and for people to step on it, they found it to be very, very disgusting. I was hearing after this, they had a radio talk show on one of the radio stations, and they were having a debate going on, and one of the guy who was doing this said, "You know what, it doesn't bother me. I'm not Hindu, so I'm Christian, so it doesn't bother me if someone's stepping on all over, religious deities or Hindu deities." So, and I found that to be quite outraging as well, that, it doesn't matter if you're Hindu or not, but think of it, if it was your religion, if it was Christianity, if Jesus was on the floor, I mean, I'm sure the Christians all over would be, raise some objections. Nonetheless, all across the GTA, Hindu mandirs got all combined together, and they protested against this organization. And this organization did go out and did apologize, but it wasn't publicly. They just had it on their website. So again, there was just, people were irked and saying, well, this was such a public event, why isn't it come in Toronto Star? And Deepa Mehta, who's one of the well-known South Asian filmmakers who just came out with Water, her comment was that in India, people are more relaxed about such things. She attended a Halloween party in New Delhi where everyone was dressed as a deity. Her words exactly are, when we leave India, we become very protective about it, and we let that define who we are. When someone apologizes, we should accept it and move on. So her take on it was that, okay, it happened, the organization apologized, let's move on and move forward. Why are we stretching the issue? So, but I also feel that this is not the first time, not that I feel, but it has, been documented in a lot of newspapers and print and stuff that it's not the first time that religion and fashion have collided with explosive controversies. Hindu groups demanded an apology from the House of Manelli for featuring gods on its latest footwear collection, Lord Rama. Again, we go to the temple and we, pray to God and we say He's the Almighty, and for it to be on shoes, that's pretty explosive. And just to take it, to take things, when you think how things could get even worse, deities are actually been pictured on undergarments. They were pictured on thongs on a website for selling. And again, there was a whole bunch of outbursts. So
I think that especially the last couple of things that you mentioned, Lane, I think that takes our whole discussion to a whole new level in terms of how much is too much. And
yeah, exactly.
Fashion is fine in its own sense, but when you're taking it to the point of disrespecting someone's religion to that extent, then I think that's a whole different story. I don't know what you girls think, but
I think that's okay. If you're, putting Lord Rama on shoes or putting Lakshmi Ma on thongs, that to me is not acceptable.
Right.
It's true.
But again, it depends what extent you go to. For example, you're mentioning the Halloween parties that are taking place in New Delhi and whatnot. Personally, I don't really see anything wrong with that. I don't really see anything wrong with people dressing up as goddesses or gods. Like, I've seen people on Halloween dress up as Jesus. As long as you're not making a statement or disrespecting your God in any way. So, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's just a fad. It's just something people are doing. So, again, it depends how far you take it and how you portray it to be.
Just a question to ask, when you said that it depends as long as you're not insulting what you're not, like if you're portraying a religious deity, whether it be Jesus Christ, whether it be,
Right.
take any, religion. What's your definition of insulting or disrespecting that?
Okay, I'm going to a party. Fine, I'm doing all the other things that you do at a party. But disrespecting for me is, oh look, I'm dressed as Lord Rama. Do you like the bow and arrow in my hand, or do you like this? Like, actually talking about it and making fun of it. If I'm just dressed appropriately like Lakshmi Ma or Lord Rama or whoever it is, and I'm not insulting my religion in any way, to me that's okay.
Right.
And same goes for my children. If my children tomorrow say to me, oh, you know what, I want to dress up as Hanuman and go out for Halloween, that's fine with me. At least my child is not scared to portray its religion.
Right.
But again, it depends to what extent. If that same person is dressing up and going to a club and drinking and smoking and whatnot, doing whatever, that might be insulting to the religion.
Right, okay.
well, that I think was the idea that Lena was mentioning with the Halloween party in Delhi, where when you're at a Halloween party, it's not for kids. So the understanding is that there are young adults there, and there are adults who are smoking, drinking, involved in all kinds of these activities that may not suit the attire that they're wearing. Because again, what's the difference then between someone, we were talking about them dressing up in Halloween costumes using deities. Now tell me there's no lack out there in the stores and in our merchandise and clothing of dressing up as someone else. Like when kids are young, they grow up thinking, oh, Spider-Man, I'm going to be the Tooth Fairy, I'm going to be Casper.
Right.
It's not I'm going to be Lord Ram and Lord Krishna. And to me, I think that's adding a whole new facet onto it, and to some
How about I want to
extent,
be an angel?
disrespecting.
It's the same thing.
Well, okay, but
In
angels.
the Bible, an angel is something significant. I don't know if you agree with me, Shivani. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I think it's a personal choice and opinion.
It's true. I think sometimes we do stretch things a little too far. It's not, when you're going to a Halloween party, you're not meant to be a symbol.
Yeah.
You're meant to go out, you're dressed up as something, people look at you and move on. It's not really something like, I'm trying to make a fashion statement, or I'm trying to make any kind of statement by going to a Halloween party wearing, whatever.
A deity.
Yeah, a deity dress. Like, I'm wearing a deity dress, I'm going to a party.
Right.
End of story. If you choose to make it an issue, because you can make anything an issue.
That's
I
true.
Honestly,
agree.
anything,
Anything can be
because
an issue.
the way we live in a Western society, we're doing I mean, and India is becoming more westernized. There's always gonna be something. You're not supposed to have chicken. You're not supposed to have meat everywhere. You know, like even if you're a Hindu, you're a Brahmin, there'll be
But they still do it.
something
Right.
everywhere. So let's put this in the context of if we live in a modern society with modern thoughts as well as Indian thoughts, and for that, if we take every little thing and make it into a religious issue or a cultural issue, it will become difficult.
I agree with you, but I think that you've got to, that respect comes in regardless. You can't just say because, you know, you're living in a modern society, you know what, you can just insult it as much as you want. No. There has to be a cutoff, there has to be a limit.
Fine line
There
has
has
to be
because
there.
because
Oh, sorry.
no, sorry, go ahead.
I don't think that it's meant to be an insult. Again, when we say insult, you're actually intending to insult someone when you insult it, right? So, me dressing up as a deity is not meant as an insult. It's not meant to be disrespectful. So it's
Just to cut you off, sorry, but I think this is important. When you say a modern society, in the 60s, in the 70s, people were dressing up as hippie. I don't know if you remember the Hare Rama, Hare Krishna movement, where everybody's smoking pot, drinking, wearing Om t-shirts. Again, yes, number one, that was a hippie stage. It was a fashion statement, but yet it had religion involved in it. So when you're talking about a modern society, it's not just a modern society. It was going on in the 60s. It was going on in the 70s. It's something that's been ongoing.
I agree. It's
You
just
know?
I guess it just comes into where does entertainment and fashion come into play, right?
Yes.
Like the name of the thing that Anu was referring to was called Bollywood Cowboys. Now, Bollywood is all about entertainment,
Right.
nothing to do with, you know, our gods or anything.
I agree.
Even in our movies that come out, we respect our you know what I mean? Because
Right.
you know that right away any movie that comes out and it defaminates or insults the religion, it's banned. There's, you know, hangamas going on everywhere. So I guess, you know, there's a fine line between fashion and between entertainment, basically.
I think a lot of what came from that was pure ignorance on some people's parts. Maybe, you know, to play devil's advocate, they're not aware. But considering that there was a South Asian organization actually promoting the event and sponsoring it, there is room for miscommunication, misconstruity to be cleared up and for them to explain that, you know, this is, I mean, a lot of these big fashion shows and all, sure, it held in Milan, Paris, wherever it may be, doesn't mean that there's no South Asian there that is able to clear up some of these depictions. I mean, to me, I think it's horrendous to even think about. You know, there's a fine line, like we're saying, between taking things too far and making everything an issue.
Definitely.
But when we're resorting to having, you know, religious T-shirts thrown on the floor with people stamping all over, this is not a rock
That's
concert.
true.
This
Right,
is
that's
not
true.
one of the shirts that, you know, the big rock shirts are. These are our gods, the people that we respect in some ways,
Yeah, exactly.
regardless of any culture, be it Muslim, be it Christianity,
Exactly.
Judaism, doesn't
Agreed
matter.
upon.
There is that line that you don't cross, and to make that a fashion statement and to have shoes sold with our pictures of our gods on it, I think that's horrendous.
That's true.
Outrageous.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
One final thing.
Yeah.
Even though we have had this discussion about entertainment and religion being separate, we might want to consider also that, okay, I know how you said, remember how you said about the Lord Krishna, how Lord Shiva used to smoke and that was a problem. But, I mean, we should also remember that our religion does have a very big portion of entertainment, and, you know, they do say that, you know, you can do certain things and it's alright. Like, you know, we have bhang on Holi.
But that's what I'm
things.
saying. There's a difference, right? There's a difference between smoking pot and smoking bhang.
Or drinking bhang,
Or
exactly.
drinking, yeah.
And again, it's all about the connotation. When we're drinking bhang or anything like that, there's a meaning behind it. It's not, you know, it's not just about, oh, we're alcoholics and we're gonna now have all the waitresses dressed up as or go-go dancers dressed up as Shiva serving bhang to everybody. That to me is disrespecting the ideology behind
That's
Hinduism.
true.
That's what the
That's
problem
true.
is.
Well, that was a pretty interesting debate that we had.
Definitely.
Thank you very much for watching South Asian Outlook on Web TV. If you have any comments or feedbacks that you'd like to send to us, please email us at dearpia, that is DEARPIA, at southasianoutlook.com. Thank you very much and we'll be back next week. Thanks.
Thank you.